So the basic procedure for manual inspection. So the inspector will sit, of course, in front of the light booth, and then he or she will clean up the container, the primary container. So if there shouldn't be any label when the inspection is taking place on the primary container. Okay, and then maybe if the maybe vial or syringe is not clean, so you can clean up externally, of course. And then, like I said before, hold the container by its top, and maybe one or two containers at a time, and carefully swirl content by rotating the wrist to move the content of the container. So what it means is you do not want to shake it vigorously. If you do that, you will get a lot of air bubbles. Then air bubbles will hinder your view to see any possible particulate that may be sitting or floating in there. So gentle swirling is what you need. Okay, so like I said, avoid creating bubbles that will hinder your view. Hold container horizontally about 4 inches below the light source. So how much is so that's enough space, so you're not going to get too close to the light or too far away from the light, of course. And then you look at them on against the white and then against the black. Okay, so you have to have a designated time for each view. Okay. If no particles are seen, you have to flip over, invert the container slowly. Again, slowly. If you do it too fast, you'll get a lot of air bubbles. So you have to do it slowly and observe for heavy particles that may be settling. They'll be visible after that. And observation should not last for 5 seconds. So there's that 5-second limit. So if you look at it even longer, that doesn't help. They may, create some false positives. So that's not, helping. So reject any container having visible particles, of course, and label them, sort them out accordingly. So that's the manual inspection, but that inspection can be combined with maybe semi-automated inspection. What's a semi-automated inspection? What that is you have to take a look at this. So yeah, so inspection is still taking place by the individual inspector, but when those vials are loaded up, that loading and distribution is done automatically. So it's a manual inspection with an integrated conveyor and timing system. So it controls the time of the inspection is controlled, and then loading or distribution is controlled. That's what semi-automated inspection is. Okay, so it's not just one inspector doing all the things. There are several light booths combined together when this is installed. Okay, so then the vials are delivered to the inspector by a conveyor or belt system. Okay, so vials travel down on the conveyor and stop for the set inspection time. So the timing is controlled. The inspector picks up the vials and performs inspection in the light booth, and then place them back on the conveyor to proceed traying off. Okay, so that's kind of efficient because the automated, timing and delivery of the vials are taking place. Okay, so another advantage that these systems generally include automated counting, so that the inspectors do not have to count. So the counting part is also automated. So that's why it's a semi-automated part of this inspection. Okay, and finally, there's another fully automated inspection. There's no human inspector involved in this process. Instead, the inspection is done by the light-based observation. So maybe there's a camera attached to it, and the camera will take a picture. The light-based observation is that. So here, see the syringes are going through. So automate the syringe inspection using optical sensor to detect particles. So there's the optical sensor. See the light coming through? So yes, it's optical sensor based detection system. But it's good. I mean, people are not involved, so human error is minimized. But the system itself is very expensive, of course. Okay. And then the system, if it's going to be implemented, the testing, validation should be done, of course. Before that, that's a big burden. But once it's all purchased and validated and implemented, then of course it's more efficient and there's much less human error involved in this process. So it's good. Okay, so that's the visual inspection part. I hope you understood what's going on and what AQL means how the inspection is taking place. So you are doing the visual inspection in the lab, hands-on part, so you will enjoy this part. Okay. And then now we're going to talk about the product labeling. Okay, so label is important part of documentation, of course. So see GDP. So labeling of all drug product, of course, it's required to provide accurate information about your product regarding what it is, and then to avoid any misrepresentation of the ingredient, of course, and the effects of a drug, whether accidental or intentional. So what you should not do is the misrepresentation, of course, what your drug is and what it is used for. No exaggeration of its efficacy should not be there, of course. So FDA has a lot to say about how you label and what you label on your drug product. Of course, we're going to talk about that. So every different product, including different strength or concentration of the same API, should be labeled. Okay, we want to talk about that later on as well. And then label can be applied directly to the primary container, including the package insert, or applied to secondary packaging material such as a pack box. Okay, so if you buy a bottle of Tylenol, of course the bottle itself has that label on that outside of the bottle. But if it comes in a paper box, of course the paper box has an insert, the page of its what it is, ingredient dosage, and then side effect, all those things. And the outside of the secondary container, which is a paper box, will have some labeling as well. So that's what you're talking about. And labeling, prints, and printing and handling must be carefully monitored at all steps in the process. Okay, all the labeling materials such as blank labels and labeling equipment must be tested beforehand to ensure that they operate correctly and fit any specific requirement for the type of labeling that will be applied to the product. Okay. So this is important. So the information to be included on the label is established as part of the regulatory submission. FDA has a lot of control over that, and you have to adhere to FDA requirements and must be verified for correctness. Okay, so any exaggeration, any misinformation should not be there. That's what FDA says. And then special precaution must be taken at all times to avoid mislabeling. Mislabeling is a huge red flag. And then after leftover, if there's any leftover labels from a designated batch, that should be discarded. They should not be reused, of course, to prevent any mix-ups and things like that. Okay. And if there is ever any doubt whether or not to apply a label to certain product, then what should you do? You should not use it, of course, and then talk to your supervisor or QA representative. Labeling machine. There are different types of labeling machines. Okay, machine can be used to label individual vials, bottles, syringes, bulky packs. Okay, moved over that. So there are semi-automatic labeling machine and automatic labeling machine. Semi-automatic requires some human operator's input, and the automatic is fully automatic. There's no person involved in the operation. So this is semi-automatic. So where is a person involvement? Probably it's going to be a placing of the bottle here, and then putting a label. So maybe there may be a switch there. Maybe it could be a hand pressed or foot pressed switch there after placing a bottle. I think then when you press that, the label is applied, and this is fully automatic. And the bars are going in automatic, and the labels are put on automatic as well. Okay, so the FDA regulations and guidelines on label control, which includes manufacturing processes, which materials are permissible to use, printing, application, and disposal practices, label design and recommendation related to the font size and color, even what font size you use and what color you use. FDA has a lot of control over your label. Okay, so 21 CFR, section 201 defines label as display of written, printed, or graphic matter upon the immediate container of any article. Article means product. Okay, the term immediate container does not include the package liner. Okay? Any word, statement, or other information appearing on the immediate container must be also appear on the outside container or wrapper. So if label is on the primary container, what it means is outside secondary container should have that as well. If any there be of the retained package of such article, or is easily legible through the outside container of the wrapper. Okay, and then the section M defines labeling as all labels and other written, printed, or graphic matter, of course, upon any article or any of its containers or wrappers, or accompanying such article at any time while a device is held for sale after shipment or delivery for shipment in interstate commerce. So term accompanying is interpreted as liberally to mean more than physical association with the product. It extends to poster, okay, tags, pamphlets, circulars, booklets, brochures, instruction books, direction sheets, and fillers, and etc. So what it means is labeling is not, limited to what is applied on its bottle or containing your drug or maybe secondary container. Not only that, anything that's used in your maybe advertisement separately from the product, okay, like a poster, tags, pamphlets, and circular booklets, those are all included as part of the labels for your drug. That's what FDA says. Okay, so you cannot provide misinformation about your product on those labels. Okay, so after regulation regarding adequate directions for use, okay, you have to clearly provide that. Adequate direction for use means directions under which the layman can use. Any layman can use a drug safely without misinterpreting it or without ambiguous expressions of people have some questions. Okay, so and for the purpose of which it is intended. So that's intended use could be clearly communicated and understood by the users. Direction for use may be inadequate because, among other reasons, of omission, and if anything is missing in whole or in part or incorrect specification of. Okay, so statements of all conditions, purposes, or uses for which such drug is intended, including conditions, purposes, or use which is prescribed, recommended, or suggested. So you have to provide all the information. Okay, and quantity of the dose, including user quantity for each of the uses for which it is intended. Okay, so provide as much information as possible. That's what it means. Frequency of administration, okay, or application, duration of administration or application, time of administration or application. Okay, a lot of information should be there. Route of method of administration. Is it muscular or intravenous application? What is it? Preparation for use. If you need to shake it up before giving injection, if you need to make a dilution, if you have to adjust the temperature before you use it, all those things should be communicated in your label. So FDA regulation regarding misleading statement. You should not have misleading statement. What they say about misleading statement is, again, any statement that suggests the drug is something else than what it is. So drug is something that is not. That's misleading statement or misrepresentation. Okay, so may claim to use or effect of the drug that has not been approved by FDA. Okay, your drug may be good for maybe treating heart, but somehow it can also be used for something else, maybe energizing people, whatever. Okay, but you cannot provide that in your label. It may be good for this, treating this disease, or by the way, it can also work for that. You're not allowed to do that. A lot of nutraceuticals have all those labels. Oh, this drug is good for this. They are not controlled by the FDA. They are not regulated. But if your drug is legitimately regulated by the FDA, you should not have that. You cannot have that. 21 CFR 201.6 drug misleading statement. It defines that among representation in the labeling of the drug which renders such drug misbranded is a false or misleading representation with respect to another drug or a device or a food or cosmetic. Okay, so that's important. So suggests that the name of one or more but not all such ingredients, even though the name of all such ingredients are stated elsewhere in the labeling. So labeling of drug contains 2 ingredient. Okay, if your drug is mixed up of 1 or 2 more ingredient, everything should be labeled. That's what it means. Okay.